Hello and welcome to Off Track on Purpose, a podcast focused on finding the point of life, maybe in untraditional ways. Here we talk to people who've traded the straight line for a different route, not because they were lost, but because they were looking. Because sometimes the best way forward is sideways, backwards, or maybe off the trail. So if you've ever felt behind, off course, or like you're making it up as you go, you're in good company. Alrighty, we're off.
Yes, sir.
Today we're going to dive into, hopefully, what does it really mean to be successful? And these are both definitions, or we hope to talk about definitions that we hold for what success means. So I think kind of talking through what the idea of when we talk about success or when we think about success, what that means to each of us personally is what I'm hoping to get to. And it doesn't have to be like a fancy definition. We can certainly talk about things that have kind of pushed us in that direction. Like how do we get to this definition of success? And I'm sure that's gonna involve maybe people or books or whatever. But I think the key thing is just I don't think we have to be fancy or formal about it. Just talking through what specifically do we see as success scenario? What are some things that led us there? What are some things that we think maybe for us personally don't mean success? And then kind of marrying up those things in a 30-minute conversation is kind of where we go from there. So I think if we wanted to start the intro would be today we really have to talk about what success means. So both personally and maybe how we can apply it in the rest of our lives as it interacts with other people that are important to us. Like what does it really mean to be actually successful? So I don't know. I can kick off maybe with a question to you. When do you think you started to even really considering what success meant? Like have you always thought about hey, success is this to me, or I want to be successful?
No, not even close. No, it's probably a little embarrassing for when I started realizing what, I guess what I would consider what true success would be at this point in time in my life. And I think I have a lot better understanding of exactly what I think I want it to be, more confidence in what that answer should be. But man, probably it was a realization, maybe early. I'm 35 now, so it was probably not for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of wonder because I feel like I think I would have had a similar experience myself, but I think you almost kind of don't really consider success. It's more a lot of times it's just survival, and I don't even think that you realize, well, at least for me, you don't realize you're thinking about that. Like you don't realize that you're just surviving in a lot of the things that you're doing, but it's pretty easy to do when you get a job and go do things that like or go have responsibilities that kind of take up your time, take up a lot of your energy. It's pretty easy to get focused on what's next, or what do I have to do today, or what can I do with my time that's relaxing or easy, and not really think about where could I be going with my life, which is a much bigger question, kind of
Yeah,
more challenging to address at the time.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I think and I think it comes in stages, just based off of, you know, as time goes on. I would build off of exactly what you said. I think that's a really good point. I'll put this. I think you start out to where like survival mode. Excuse me. Like you had said, it starts out as survival mode, and then from survival mode, I think that you start having all these questions or maybe even problems or issues, and just not and I think a lot of it starts when you start to look to figure it out is, why does it feel like I can't do anything with my time, or I have no time, or there's a lack of time? And you're just trying to go through the motions and make through. I think multiple times we had talked about it, and I think when people say paycheck to paycheck, that's probably one of the truest things that could be said, because you don't really think about, I just need to make it to Friday, because then that's the weekend. I don't got to think about anything like as far as job related, and you don't really, you have like a lack of drive to be interested in anything other than you got to pay your bills, at least at a younger age. I feel like it kind of starts there, and then I think that it slowly grows into the survival mode, and then you start wondering why things aren't working out, and it seems like it's kind of chaos, and then I think you find a place like rock bottom almost, where it's like something does not work with this, like the way that we're going about all this. But anyway, long roundabout way to going back to the success part. I think it comes in segments. I think then you find a place where you want to try and figure something out, and then I think you started, okay, well, here's ways that I can manage my time. Here's ways that I can do these things, and then I think it goes even farther to where you get like what you're talking about at the very end, like almost like an aha moment, to where it's like, okay, that's what this is all about. There's an actual goal. I need to have a goal for all of this. Otherwise, I mean, I can discipline and plan out all my time, but if I've not said anything, I think you can 100% be disciplined and not set anything out in the far future. Like you said, it took me a long time, and I think you're probably a big advocate for. You're like, what's your 10 years look like? I don't think I've ever even had any inclination to it. Man, I've never thought about that before. What I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. What are you talking about 10 years from now? But anyway, I think you're just you're almost dumbfounded to it unless something either puts you in a position to where you kind of either had enough of not getting it right and you have no aim for the future, or you keep beating your head against the wall until someone can come to you and be like, hey, try this, might be different.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's common, and I think I would have certainly felt the same way, and I think a lot of it though is that if you don't have someone tell you, you just kind of wander around, and I think you would echo this as well. Either of us would say, hey, we're successful, we're living some dream life, but I do think though that like making progress and towards things that you believe are important or valuable. If you don't have someone come along and say, hey, that there is an option out there where you can move forward in life and not get stuck in the rut of doing the same thing always and not enjoying anything about the life that you have, then I mean, it is pretty easy to just be like, okay, come home, watch TV or whatever it is, go to bed, get up, go to work, come home, watch TV, get up Saturday, maybe watch a football game, TV again, do whatever you want on Sunday, maybe do something on Sunday that doesn't involve work or TV, and then back to it again on Monday. So I think that's that. Just knowing that there's something else out there was a big thing for me. Like when you first get that, like the responsibility of a job and doing some things that have other people relying on you, you think, okay, I gotta just get that done. But then once you get in, you kind of sink into that routine that I just described for a couple years. You start just kind of feeling like, man, this is what am I doing? Like I'm just sitting around. That all the things I'm doing are things that other people are requiring me to do, and that's it. That's all I do with my life. So I think that for me was probably, and of course there's some side effects for me. There was the big side effect was like you gain weight, a bunch of weight. You have zero physical fitness capabilities, and then that you also have really kind of probably a poor attitude and outlook on life over time because you're just sitting around moping and doing nothing. So that's kind of a similar, I think a similar crisis discovery of the fact that there is something else out there, and guess who gets to go figure out what that is? It's on each of us, right? We have a personal choice when we figure out that there is something else out there if we're going to chase it or not.
Yeah.
So on the success side, I think the question I would have then is, so what do you think? So when we first had that idea to yourself, hey, there might be something else out there that I could chase. Did you have a good idea of what success was, or what, if any, idea did you have? What did it mean to you? What did it mean to be successful? First time you thought of it, or what you've historically thought of it?
Yeah. No, looking back on it, no inclination at all. I mean, theories of what success would look like, and what idea of it would be. I think wealth. I guess that would probably be a big one. Like just like thinking that if you have wealth, or you've maybe accomplished something big, but just in thought though, like it's just like man, if I had such and such, that would be nice. And it kind of I think it starts out as just all ideas. Definition of success were all based on ideas with no game plan put behind them. So like a quick thought on it would be like having a house. I would say having my own house and it being paid for. being wealthy, successful in a way of like, cars. Those would probably be the main things. Like vehicles, things that definitely don't hold their value aren't really that important. More of like trending type things. So maybe it would have been more of like vehicles, owning your own house, that kind of like just the wealth. I guess that would have been my mind right off the bat. Would have been wealth.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I don't want to say it's the easy one, but it is certainly the one you think of is some kind of monetary gain where it's almost like I can snap my fingers and just buy what I need or what I want at any time and have enough money to do that. Which I mean, I don't even think most rich people probably have that ability. But in your mind, you think, okay, if I could just make this number, whatever it is, and be able to call that money mine, then suddenly that's success. And I think that it's pretty funny that once you get a little bit of that money, suddenly it goes other places. You find bigger
Yeah.
holes to stuff in it, and you don't have the same. You still don't have that same success feeling. You're looking for, okay, well, what's the next step after this? Because now I have a bigger place or whatever where I've
Yeah.
spent more of that.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I think another thing of it too would have been, I mean, just to add on to the last piece of that, the more that I look at it now, they were dreams and ideas that you would just consider or that you would think about. Literally
yeah,
dreams and ideas as opposed to, because I think people that change their mindset and, like I said, go back to the point of aim, once you've been able to establish where you're going and the direction you're going, it's no longer something that you think about. I think mostly that comes up when in times of struggle and, like you said, like surviving, like survival mode. Like typically it's a must be nice or wouldn't it be nice, is when you
yeah,
start thinking about those things that it sure would be nice to have some money right now because these bills are just like swallowing me up.
yeah,
It would be really nice to have my own arena so I could go out and ride whenever I wanted to, or it'd be really nice to have a brand new truck right now. Wish I had the money to be able to afford that. And I think it's all just stuff that ideas or dreams that come into your head for like small moments of time, and then you don't think about them again for maybe another month, 3 months, 6 months, and then you're right back in the place again, but you never designed anything. So to me, I would think a quick point to it would be dreams and ideas that you never make any game plan or attack to commit to. Okay, well, I want a brand new truck. What am I going to do about getting a brand new truck?
yeah, yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, so I think that disconnect is pretty easy to have, where you get into that mode of, hey, I want to do that, or I want that, or I see this person with that, and it would be nice.
Yeah.
But you just kind of get in that cycle of, well, I'm not going to get it, and someone must have given that to them, or as you said, man, it sure must be nice to have this or that thing that they have that uh, I don't have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then no action taken at any point in that except for complaining about what they've got. Let's jump in right into on the definition side. For you personally, how do you define success now? So if you had to say, if someone were to ask you, like I'm asking you right now, what do you think a successful life is? How would you define that?
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth, and trying to have preparation for this, and I think it's kind of funny because even still, I think it makes it hard for you unless you sit down and really take the time to plan that out and establish what your true definition of it would be. Um, I think there's a lot of things that I would try to pinpoint down into short answers, but balance of a successful would be the definition of success. Like in my life at this point in time, a balance
Nice.
between my faith, my wife, my kids, my career, my hobbies, anything else that would fall in line after that, and probably all in that in that order. I think that finding the balance in every single one of those things, couple $1 million question for the wealth that we were looking for. When you get into the nitty gritty of it, I think it's like anything and everything else that we do, it's trial and error, and it all comes back to balance. Like if you're not good at balancing it, then you suck at every single one of those things. You get all focused on I'm gonna go do whatever I can at whatever cost to go buy this truck. Your family or your faith or your kids, your hobbies are all neglected and you're kind of miserable, or I'm gonna do whatever I can to be a career man. You don't see your kids grow up without a dad, your wife doesn't have a relationship with you. So, I mean, I'm now a firm believer that it would be the balance.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I feel like and we didn't really talk about what our definitions were, but I think that that's literally the one word I had written down on my side as well, which is just the balance portion of it. Like how do you get to the point where you have balance in those areas of your life where you're not just forsaking one thing you're not forsaking one thing or obtaining one thing at the sacrifice of all these other vital areas in your life. So that's good. Interesting that we had the same word as well, because I think it really is what it boils down to. Is what are the things that you say you want in life, and just as you just mentioned a few minutes ago, there's a lot of things we talk about like wanting as ideals, as maybe these things that everyone has that we don't. But what are the things that we say personally we want or that we desire or are important to us, and then how do we go get them? And I think the things that we're talking about, though, at least the ones you just mentioned and the ones I would probably echo as well, are really the most important things in life, right? Your family, a relationship with your family, your children, a relationship with your wife. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think chasing those things down and kind of finding the balance in each of those areas. I mean, I don't think you can get any better than achieving that from a success perspective. So that's pretty cool. Pretty neat that you had the same word picked out too. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. I won't take any credit for that. I would say it's probably been lots of talks from throwing stuff back and forth at you, and a lot of the mindset changes. I feel like that you've kind of went through and maybe dealt with it. There've been a lot of similarities in my life as well. I think that it is super interesting. You just keep finding yourself coming back to same things. Like I said, I think there's a big part of it that is the trial and error portion, to where you don't really know what's going to happen with it, but you also have to make a decision. Like you can't just not do anything. And I think the other thing probably that would correlate and maybe balance would be not being afraid of failure,
Yeah.
100%. Like, because I think that you won't find that balance is going to be like our key to success. I don't think you would ever find that your balance is um, or that success would be balance, and what our opinion of that would be if you've not failed, and if you're afraid to fail, and if you don't do anything about it. Sometimes it's just sheer laziness too. It's not about fear. I mean, it just goes. I don't know. It's kind of wild. I think that could probably run into a big rabbit hole. But yeah, personally, I would think that would also build off of that too. Not either freedom of the fear of failure or not being afraid to fail, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think balance begs the question though. So if we're saying that balance is the definition of success, the question that follows would be balance in what? So I think I can lead off on this just with a couple areas. I think that, because you've mentioned some of them already, but I think balance means that we've in the areas of life that we've prioritized, we are devoting the attention, the time, the priorities, the resources, if necessary, to make those areas or get those areas to a place where we believe they should be based on our priorities. So like some of that would be like your family, and we're both dads, so family as in your kids. Do you have balance, or do you have the relationship with your kids that you believe is necessary, like that you're prioritizing? Like, do you have influence and impact in your kids' lives? That'd be one of the ways I would define success with my children. Is my relationship healthy? And then secondly, do I have influence and impact in their lives, especially in those key areas that I think that as a dad we should have impact in their lives. That'd be one way I would personally measure success in the family area is am I doing those things? And if not, like, what's the plan to get there? Because I think there's a lot of stuff. It's pretty easy anymore, especially with all the tablets and everything else. It's pretty easy anymore to kind of hand off child rearing to the technology and teachers and everybody else. But like, is that personally our goal or your goal or my goal, or if someone is actually watching, their goal? Is that the goal that you have, and is that your plan for your children? So that's a question we have to ask. So what's the ideal for an area of our life that we find to be critical, and then where are we at right now. So I think applying that to your family, and then of course you take that to your extended family. So you could have brothers or sisters or people in your life that you want to or are able to make an impact on, and obviously some of that lessens as you get out from your immediate family, because you can't make an impact on every family member that's in the world that shares your last name. So you kind of have to prioritize as you go outward. But you can still try to maintain a relationship, try to have that as a goal to say, okay, I want to be there for my family when they need it. I want to try to provide help if possible. Maintain open dialogue by kind of checking in or whatever that is. There's another way you can kind of balance and say it's a priority to me. And then of course with your spouse, I think that's a tough one as well, because it's pretty easy to just get going and say, okay, what's the list for this week? Like, what do we got to do? Let's knock that out, without actually investing in maintaining the relationship, the actual relationship that you have, or that we say we want to have with our spouses. It's pretty easy to be like, nah, I'm just going to go do what I want with all the time that I have. And then they may think the same thing. And then suddenly it's been a little while since you talked about anything that wasn't like
Yeah.
transactional in nature. So those are a couple examples there. But I also think that maybe it's worth mentioning that I think that at the same time, you want to be the best in whatever your career is that you can as well. So I think balance to your family, dedicating those times. We mentioned those first because that's usually where everyone kind of goes haywire. As we at least personally, I
Yeah.
started out with, I'm going to go dive into work or these other things that kind of sound cooler to me, and then maybe with whatever time's left, I'll come back and think about family after
Yeah.
that. But that's not
Yeah.
the
No, that's really good. That's a good way to put it. I think, like you just said, not just picking what's fun
yeah.
or choosing what your idealistic version of what you think needs to be taken care of first, and then just leaving what little times left just for you personally are the least important, but more so of just being like, I just don't really want to do that. Um,
Yeah.
but I think all of these things have like almost like a family tree, like the branches all come off of that. Like, so we started with balance, um, and you had kind of pointed out a few different things, like individually of you brought up prioritizing, and also too a little bit you were starting to talk into making the plan, like making a plan, sitting down with your wife and making a plan and prioritizing. And I think another one you and me had recently talked about was awareness. I think being aware that there are seasons of time in your life that I'm gonna go all out. I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time, but I'm choosing not to with my family. And I've got these bills that need to be taken care of, and I want them over and done with. This is going to be the time it's going to happen for the next 2 months. It's going to suck,
Survival. Yeah. That's
but
right.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm going to do. And I think there's going to be the seasons of time too that I've prioritized this and I've made a plan for it, and I've planned out these events, and I'm going to spend this time with my family. I'm going to spend this time with my parents or my brothers and sisters, my kids, my wife. All the above. You're able to go through that part of the awareness, prioritizing, making the plan, like all of the above. And I'm not doing these in any certain order, but it probably should be. But also, then I like another one. I think that kind of branches off of that would be the execution of the plan. Like you have to start with the making the decision on that as well too. There's a ton of stuff that goes into it. Probably some of the best advice you ever gave me for, like, when you were talking about definition of success. So a starting point for this, and maybe I'm jumping the gun on this, I think would be that realistically, if you're at a point of completely being lost, I think at one point in time, it was kind of one of those things that there something definitely has to change. And I think I talked with you at one point in time, and it was like, it might have been 2 or 3 hours of time to where I just sit and jotted all this stuff down, and all the things that I wanted to be better at, and all the things that I absolutely sucked at, that I was spending no time on. And that's when the awareness part kind of came into play. But I think you have to have the awareness for the future planning, but you have to have the awareness when you're going through the trenches, so to speak, at the time too. Like, you have to know when you got to be able to turn it off and turn it on for every situation.
Yeah. I mean, so awareness, I think, if maybe dig into that a little bit, where you're saying, so the awareness piece is not just saying, hey, I want to go have goals, but the awareness is also, hey, here are areas where I can see that like I'm failing at currently. Like I've said, or I know maybe it's a priority for me, but I know that also I'm not doing any of these things, or I'm leaving somebody behind, whether it's your kids or your wife in some
Sure.
aspect. Is that what you're saying there?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because I think it's, and I like how you mentioned that you even kind of take those and write them down and say, okay, what are the things that I want to get better? Because I think that's a big key, and has been for me for a long time. Is you can certainly have a very negative opinion of yourself, and I know we have, I know I have, but it's pretty easy to just wallow in that and just keep saying I suck and I always will in these areas, or at this thing, or at discipline, whatever it is. But it's also pretty easy to not to just kind of just keep saying that and just keep beating yourself up instead of writing it down and saying, instead of just saying I suck and I always will.
Yeah.
The difference is I suck. I'm gonna try to get better, and here's the ways that I hope to try to get better. Like I want to do more of this with my family, with my wife, whatever, and then turn that into a little bit of an action, even though it takes a long time, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that again, another balance point to that. I mean, I think that cycles back around to they've got to be realistic, right? They've got to be obtainable. It's got to be obtainable things. And uh, going through that whole portion of the okay, this didn't work. Back to the drawing board, or hopefully, I'm pretty dumbfounded at a lot of things. I'm not figuring it out that the plan's not working till I've already completely botched it up and like you're in a full on mess. Or maybe your kids hate you or your wife hates you and they're just like, man, I'm sick of you right now. Kind of not maybe not to that full extreme, but normally there's something pretty heavy going on right in front of you and you're like, oh yeah, this doesn't work. But yeah, I
it takes a lot to find it.
sure.
Yep. So on the success side, so we talked about balance, talked about kind of finding areas of life that are important to you and prioritizing that. So what do you think? So if you had to pick like the top five things, so if we're working towards success, finding balance in these areas that are very important to us, how do you decide those areas? Like what for you personally? What's the way that you say these things are what I want to find the balance in? I want to make sure that I prioritize this list of areas. And how did you get it?
Sure. It was kind of just a little bit of everything. Talking to other people, you being one. Like I said, I think there was a bunch of stuff that you had been through it and had found some things out. I think you do a ton of reading, and it seemed like you're always on the search for how can I make this better, faster, more efficient? You're pretty good at doing that in general, and just having some conversations with you. But again, I think you learn the hard way on a lot of things as well. I would say that, with that being said, that's probably where like coming about it, as far as being able to figure it out. Again, just jotting a bunch of things down and thinking what it started out as a broad perspective. These are the things I feel like that are important, and then after going through them and being in the motions of it or going through the process of it, you start then with the process of elimination to where you start narrowing the things down. Right now, the most important things I would think that affect me: faith, family, my career, my hobbies, and my fitness. Those are probably the top. Would you say five? Is that five? That sounds like five.
Yeah, that's about five. Yeah, I didn't. I don't think I said a number, but I was just curious
Okay.
what's your top. Like, what was that? What is that list? Maybe I did say a number. I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. So faith, family, career, hobbies, and fitness. I think, and then everything would kind of just trickle off into each one of those, and you can kind of go into to depth on those. But one of the things that was super helpful, and again, something you introduced to me, but the Seven Habits, Stephen Covey, that was pretty game changer for me for just seeing what your life looks like and what it could look like, and just being able to look at it from an outside perspective of like, okay, this is a great idea, but where do I start with it? And that book I think was a pretty big game changer. I think you told me at one point in time, you need to check this out. It's really good. He goes down through and lists all the things that are not just what his opinion of what should be important, but what he has found in his own personal life and millions of people around that he's kind of helped um, uh, with changing their life for the better. I think he's pretty much, look, this isn't my rules. This just seems to be what works. Like it's super effective, and people aren't miserable and they don't hate their life and by going off of these things. So there's some method to the madness to it. But those would have been a couple of the things. Those are probably my top five, and well, for sure my top five. And those are the things that I spend the most time when I go to planning, and when I sit down on a weekly basis of what I want to get knocked out and accomplished. It starts there and then branches off of that.
Yeah. So from the Covey book, was there an exercise or a chapter or like a specific concept that stood out to you that helped you kind of kick off how you would prioritize or balance things?
Yeah, for sure. I think realistically, right from the beginning, I think when he starts about like being at your funeral and what you're wanting life to look like. I've said that before. I think I've talked about it in this podcast before. I feel like I just keep going off of it, and it's like regurgitation. But like honestly, it was super impactful for me. Like I think that was such a big moment for me. Of man, I don't have a plan. You don't have a plan. Like I don't have any idea what I'm doing, and this is something that's pretty big to look at from a perspective of like I've got to do something about what my planning should look like, what kind of person I want to be, how I want to make a difference in other people's lives, and changing that mindset. I think that like so chapter one right off the bat, and I think it just learning some of like when he's talking about you've got that box and all these things that you worry yourself with and all these things that you include yourself in that you start out as what are just have to be taken care of and I forget his verbiage on it, but like he's talking about like these pretty much like survival mode. You handle everything with survival mode. Everything that is what people are claiming to be the most important thing that needs to be done is more than likely something that could be handled at a much later time and something that would have been lacking in on your behalf for you not being disciplined to be proactive or whoever you're dealing with behalf for not being disciplined and they're coming to you last minute and trying to make you deal with stuff. But I feel like just that first chapter he's talking, I think he talks a lot on like how you start handling it and handling other people. That would be the one. I'm kind of rambling.
That's all right. No, I think that would have been key for me as well. And there are other folks who have similar ideas, but his the way he lays out that scenario of someone is at your funeral, whether that's your wife, your kids, and they're saying like the impact, they're talking to the impact you had on their life. Like what are you doing right now to build that impact statement? Like what are the literal words you want your children or these people that you say are the most important in your life to what are the words you want them to be able to say or expand on? I think that to me was certainly, it's kind of a clear cut way to say what's important in life when you can boil it down to it's your funeral. The people that you bragged to everyone about how important they are in your life, they're up there talking. What do they have to say? Like do they have to reach for words or think about maybe try to search for a time when you invested in them, or is it front of mind, and is it like there's so many things that you've invested in them that they have to kind of pick from. They've got a list of memories, positive, a list of investments, whether that's kind of challenging them or helping them grow, that they're able to kind of pull from and say, hey, here's the thing about Dad was he was there, or the thing about Dad was he was there and he challenged me, or he helped make me the person I am today on a regular basis through the time he spent. Like those are the kind of things that certainly from that book stand out to me as being a unique and challenging, and then also really kind of force you into this mindset of, okay, what am I going to do now then? Because now I know, like that's one of the top priorities, right? My children or the people around me or the people I say I want to impact, and then
Yeah.
knowing what they're going to say about you at your funeral is key. So yeah, I like that, and also as you mentioned, that helps kind of bound the other stuff you're talking about, the quadrants of like what's urgent, what's actually important, And then like how do you balance people who come to you there with what's urgent to them versus what you have already decided in your planning or whatever is most important, like maybe time with your kids, and maybe you have an urgent work thing that pops up after you've already promised or committed some time to your family. Like what are you going to do there? Is it what's
Yeah.
the dichotomy, the
Yeah.
dichotomy or the path you're going to take in answering that? So I think that's good. But yeah, I think that Seven Habits book certainly was impactful personally. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you found it that way as well, and also neat that you had a similar experience with that exercise.
Yeah, not to change gears, but I think people a really good version of how you can base your success off of too is like a good reminder, I should say. You recently had an experience, and we were talking about it. There was a gentleman that passed away, and we were talking about it, and you had said that you went to his funeral, and you said that people very clearly like this person and were hugely impacted by him, and it was, if I remember right, you told me it was pretty much like nothing you'd ever been around or seen
For
before.
sure.
And we've all been to plenty of funerals, I think, especially growing up as preachers' kids, and you know, dad doing funerals all the time and people passing away. So I think that's living proof right there of, you know, a good reason for why it's important to be doing this podcast, and what our kind of end all is. And I would think that going along with the definition of success, when that kind of had happened, how did that affect you? What, like, I mean, was that something that kind of rejuvenated what you'd already kind of, this is something you'd already known, this whole idea of what you think success is, and know, like how we were talking about like the Stephen Covey, because he had talked about it before, but was that like a rejuvenation to like get you back into gear and make you remember why you're doing what you're doing, or was that more of a, was that more of a just like you'd never seen that before, you'd never seen that in person before, and then you kind of got the actual full realization of it?
Yeah, I think that it certainly was a very positive, and I think it to me it underscored the reality of what Covey talks about around like if you live your life in a way that you invest in the critical things around you, the critical people around you, then it isn't a wasted life. I can imagine the opposite of that funeral, which is kids get up and they can't remember where dad was because he was at work. That maybe they have a bunch of money that he left them that they're fighting over. And I think that that it certainly is motivating, and it's also a reminder. So to be succinct, very motivating. I think to try to achieve something like that or similar to that for my own family, for my own kids, to leave a legacy where they have so much to say that they can't fit it in to something like a funeral speech. But then also at the same time, just remembering that you are going to die. So I mean, the time to start. So thinking about balance, the time to start thinking about like what are the things in my life that I'm not prioritizing right now that I should be, and then from there trying to say, okay, knowing that I'm gonna could die anytime. I don't know when that's gonna be. Am I okay with where I'm at in my life and how I spent the time that I have? And I think working backwards from that, then you start building out. Okay, what do I want life to look like? Then you work back to, okay, what can I do today, this week, this month, this year to try to move the needle towards what that looks like. And I think that it really was a motivating event, and maybe rejuvenating is a good way to say it, in the sense that it was very encouraging to see that, but also very challenging personally to say, okay, that was his story. Like he built that legacy over 50 years or 60 years of investment. So what am I going to do today to kind of start that same journey in my life and with the people around me? So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think I again, I think it goes back to, you know, a big reason for the podcast we're doing here. I think that there's a lot of people out there that I think for, I won't speak on both our behalves, but I would think that yours is the same as what mine would be mindset wise. I'm excited to meet people like that and talk to people like that. There's nothing more exciting than getting a little bit of pep in your step, so to speak, like when you're going through all this, because even though you can kind of plan this all out and kind of depict what it's supposed to look like and what it means, it does not mean that the everyday portion of it is not going to be the embrace the suck portion, because typically people that start becoming disciplined and go out and do it, they don't just find they wake up and they're like, man, I am super excited about this 365th day into it, and I'm
Yeah.
excited about today, like every
Right.
single day. I think it sucks. I'm going to make it through it today, and it sucks. And I'm going to miss the mark on some of these days, and I'm going to miss the mark on some of these individual tasks on the daily. But yeah, I'm gonna pick right back up where I left off, and then fix it and make it right. But also, too, you find other people out there that have spent a ton of time on that. And I think the part that makes it so intriguing is an overall, this whole definition of success is that perfect example of that man's gone and he's never coming back. But I can promise you that all the people that were around him um, are very clear as to what direction he was going with things, and they remember the good things about him that they were able to get up and talk about. And I think as an overall, this is like in anything, nothing's going to come easy and it's going to suck. But I think if you put time into it and try and do your best to day to day, like get a little bit better, I think as an overall 30, 40 years of your time put into it shows as an overall. And we may not see it on the day to day, but it does
Yeah.
show as an overall. They're like, oh yeah, that's a cool guy. That guy, loves God, he loves his family, he loves his hobbies, he enjoys what he's doing, and that was all built out of discipline turning into habit, and not just like, oh yeah, I woke up every day and I was just excited about life.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. The motivation leaves pretty early in a lot of these things, but the discipline part is what keeps you sticking with it. And I think that the thing that stands out to me there is, so there's that saying about you die twice, right? You die when you take your last breath, and then the second time you die is when the people that you've impacted, or the last person you've impacted, also dies. The last person that has a memory of you, right? So I think that second death piece, that impact that you've left, is really, I mean, that's the vital one. I think personally, when you're thinking about, okay, what am I doing now with the breath that I have? Because the breath piece is just the first death. The second death is really what that legacy looks like when that last memory of you fades from planet Earth. So
Yeah, that's really good, man. I don't know if you had anything else to add to it. I think we've got a good chunk of the things we kind of wanted to talk about as far as the defining success and what our definition would look like. Thoughts or
no, I think we covered it. Yeah. Again, I think it's so. To recap, we talked a lot about balance. So finding success in critical things. So making sure that we're able to identify what are the most important things in life, and then figuring out a way to balance that with kind of one, the things that we really enjoy or maybe take on. Because I mean, being a dad, spending time with kids is the right thing to do. It's not always the most fun thing to do, to come home and be like, hey, let's go play dolls or whatever whatever it is
yeah,
that they want to
yeah,
do, right? But trying to find a way to balance that, so you're still able to make those positive impacts while still hopefully moving things forward in the personal growth, in the career, in the things that we like to do or we like to achieve as well. So I think that's kind of the key. So balance, finding balance in the critical areas to us, to each of us, whatever those are, and then of course from there, finding ways to prioritize the time we can spend to make progress, so that we can have success in those areas. So I think that's maybe the recap of what we've talked about so far. And of course, the funeral thing, I think, really sheds light on what you value as, sorry, or what you prioritize. So the things that people are going to say at your funeral are probably not going to be as achievement focused as they are going to be investment focused on people's lives. So I think that's a key thing for me, would be like, so in selecting the things that you're going to prioritize in defining success, they should be things that people could or would generally say about you at a funeral, and hopefully it's the people that you care about. So
yeah. That's really good. I can't remember if I told you about that book that I had read, but there's a quote in there that the guy was talking about. I think it was Fighting the Dark Shadows, the one with You read that one as well, right?
I think so. Yeah, I don't remember a quote specifically, but
Yeah, no. So they were talking about when they were in the in a imprisonment camp, and he was talking about the guys in there had made this big ultimate plan that they were going to get out and escape on this certain day, and the time kept coming and built right up to the down to that day, and he he was still there. They never escaped, and the buildup of it, was kind of more than he could bear it. Like he had ended up passing away from like the discouragement, but there was not
wow.
really there wasn't a realistic plan.
Yeah,
I guess more of the story is that he made it an expectation that was impossible, with no for sure that it was going to happen, but and there wasn't any real good planning around it. It was one like what we talked about early for the dreams or ideas. But he had then said on there that getting your telos right, and then I had never heard telos before, and I looked it up like for definition, and I'm pretty sure it said something like an ultimate object or aim, and I guess just kind of finish off to what you were saying there is getting the aim right, getting the
yeah,
telos
that's a
right
good
from
point.
the beginning. Like so, when this all gets planned out, just a clear definition of the most important things. I feel like when you start, you know what the most important things are. I feel like you have a really good idea. Sometimes it's hard to figure out, but even as you keep going, I think it narrows down and you find exactly what you're after. And I think you kind of just start keeping it put on point to what are the most important things? What do I care about the most? If I know that I'm sincerely happy and fulfilled with those things, then I'm gonna lean that direction and start going full on into that direction at that point in time. But anyway, that was kind of it. I'll let you kind of end off on what the following would be for the next week or the next podcast we would do. I know we had talked about bringing some people on, but you're better at that, so I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, so timing wise, we may jump into maybe a goals conversation next, given that so now that we're kind of at the end of the year, or it could be an interview. We'll see who we get. We have a couple folks that we've talked to about lining up. I just don't know whether it's going to work with all the holiday stuff. So we may just the next episode may be something around goals and planning. So getting the specifics around what it is that you mean. You mentioned success. You mentioned getting there, and that's always going to result in some type of planning activity. So setting
Sure.
goals and then planning that out, and then we can probably talk through maybe what that looks like personally. But yeah, it'll be either that or maybe a first conversation with someone else, depending on everyone's holiday schedule. So
Right on, man. I guess we can wrap this thing up. Thanks for doing this thing with me again, and I guess until the next one, call it a day.
yeah, man, take care.
All right.
Bye.
Yep.